Welcome, friends, to episode 291 of Color Magic, your Magic Gaming podcast, where we talk about all types of issues that affect gamers at and away from your gaming tables and computers. I am your host, PowrDragn, and for 291 episodes, hopefully surviving the Texas heat, still got my main man, Brian Sonic. How's it going, dude?
Tish is keeping it freezing in here. I don't know what the thermostat is on, but it's
Bro, she's got it right. Like, I was
right.
down in Vegas last week before, man, I don't know, time's flying. But dude, when I got off that plane and that 105, 108 hit me, whew, I was like, yeah, I don't miss this.
Plus, I don't know what it is about I guess the dynamics of the house. This room stays cool regardless of season. It seems like I don't know why. I don't know what the deal is.
Opposite side from the sun, maybe?
Could
Where it
be.
sets in the day. Yeah, could be.
That might be what it is.
Well, it's a good room to record in, though. You ain't going to get too hot with all the lights and the computer on, so that's good.
Right.
Yeah, man, this week was kind of weird. We have stories. Obviously, we're going to talk about the Magic bannings because, those were kind of crazy. But then just a lot of stuff, like weird stuff with Monopoly Go, which is kind of crazy, a wild story. And then also, sadly, some layoffs are happening. So this is a weird week. We're kind of all over the place. But before we get into everything, if you want to support the show, be sure to check out patreon.com/colormagic. Throw us a couple of bucks. We'd really appreciate it. It'll help us keep the lights on. And yeah, actually, before we get into that, I want to give a shout out to a patron too, Kev. I just what they go by. They just have Kev on the Patreon. So Kev, thank you for being a patron. Yeah, the lead story here, man, is just the bannings this week. This was all over every page. Every YouTube channel talking about is getting a ton of views. And people are excited to play standard again, right? So it did what it was supposed to do. But for anybody who missed it, this was the largest banning of cards, I think, in any one go since, God, I don't know, I was looking earlier, maybe 2005. And then at least compared to any year, 2020 had more cards banned. But this was a lot. Over the weekend, I put out a video and told people we were probably going to get 3 cards or 7 plus. I thought it could have been even more if they wanted it to be. I thought they were going to go 3 realistically, and we were going to gamble on the rest, but they went for it.
Yeah.
So
the hammer came down.
Yeah, they said, hey, we're just going to deal with all this up front. So the 7 cards were Corey Stillcutter, the artifact that was in so many decks, honestly. Abuelo's Awakening, which kind of empowered Omniscience to come on the battlefield out of the graveyard on turn 4.
I believe it's pronounced Omniscience, sir.
Exactly, Omniscience.
I think about that every time I see that deck now.
It's too funny, man. Monstrous Rage. This was a card that obviously was setting people on fire, upsetting people for months now. Heartfire Hero. This one was a little bit surprising to me because I assume they would get rid of something else in the mice decks, but they opted for Heartfire Hero, and that actually has done its job, which is kind of interesting. Up the Beanstalk still was going to be legal for a year plus, and this makes sense too. This just allowed way too much value in too many decks. It's been a problem off and on pretty much since it was printed. Hopeless Nightmare, I think this was a case of, and really even to some extent, This Town Ain't Big Enough, where 2 cards, I think, had all this other stuff gotten banned, would have led to the enchantment decks that just rebounce all the stuff that has you sacrifice, discard, whatever. They refer to them as the Pixie decks. Could use Nurturing Pixie as the main bounce spell. But I think those decks would have been the next one up to be dominant. And they kind of just clipped that in the beginning. And that's why I said it was going to be 7 plus. A matter of like, hey, do we want to just deal with what we think is already going to be a future problem, if we get rid of all this other stuff? And they did, which was kind of surprising, but also very welcome. So yeah, as well as I do, you've played a lot of games. Anytime there's major bannings, even if people don't like them, the general population comes off positive about it. Because
I saw the result of MagicCon, where it was 2 decks primarily made up everything. So that's you never want to see that. Really.
Yeah, the Pro Tour that was at MagicCon Vegas basically had 2 brackets. That was Mono Red facing off, and the Is It Prowess decks facing off.
Yeah,
and that's pretty much all it was.
Fun. So we need to
Yeah, that's
break
not
it.
what anybody wants to see. It's bad for coverage. And
Right.
I do think there's an even bigger thing at play here. With the popularity of Final Fantasy, and this is one of the things I leaned on as to why they might go 7 or more cards, is this huge pool of players we have coming in because of Final Fantasy, right? And they want to play their Final Fantasy cards and they're getting into standard. Do you want their first experience to be these crazy negative situations?
Yeah.
Right? Not now I'm not saying every game should be easy. Whatever. Magic's obviously hard. We all know this. Like
Yeah.
competitive Magic is difficult. But if you were even playing just the casual queues on Magic Arena, it was still crazy. And that's not what you want when you have a bunch of new faces coming in trying to play new cards or
Yeah,
whatever.
I'm
So
fine with getting beat. When you get beat by the exact same thing 4 rounds in a row, that's just not fun. If
not even
I'm
just 4 rounds in a
even if
row.
I'm
Some of your games are only 4 turns.
right,
Yeah.
if I'm getting just completely pantsed, hey, I at least want to see like, oh, okay, that deck did something cool. I've never seen that before. That was really interesting. It's the same old, same old. Yeah, it gets tired real fast.
Yeah, and I think that's part of it too, right? Where people are saying, well, now I don't know, these Yuna graveyard decks are a thing and whatever. It's like cool, but those decks are doing stuff. They're drawing and discarding and they're trying to get something out of the graveyard and play a big monster and whatever. Like, and that none of that's happening really before turn 5 or 6 or 7 sometimes. So there's a game that develops where you can have some back and forth. Is it a powerful thing? Yeah, there are going to be powerful things that happen. People are combining. Hell, standard right now, I think, is 15, 14 or 15 sets of magic. So, yes, there's going to be powerful things. We're going
Yeah.
to piece together the best of different sets to
Your
do
bomb's
absurd
gone
stuff.
off on turn 7. Okay, hey, yeah, we all got to play. You know, we each of us tried to at least had a chance to attempt to execute our strategy.
Yeah, I'm with you. If it happens on turn 6, turn 7, then you got me, right? I didn't have the right answer. I didn't set up properly. Your deck just answered my deck. Like, that's okay. That's just part of playing card games. But when you don't even get to develop a game state sometimes, or in the case of Heartfire Hero, or actually not even that, just the Ember Heart and the Manifold Mouse and Monstrous Rage and whatever, where blocking doesn't even matter because it's double striking and trampling. So you're just like, well, yeah, I guess I'll just take 8, whatever. Like, there's nothing I can do here. And then I'm probably dead next turn unless I draw exactly the removal cards I need. That's not fun. It's not fun Magic for anybody to watch. It's not fun in Magic for anybody to play. So yeah, I've been having a good time this week just re-exploring decks that were right on the fringes that were okay. But now a big chunk of the decks that you had to worry about are gone. So I'm like, oh, well, now I can play a couple more extra cards because I don't have to play these weird defensive things or make a concession on one creature over another because it just survives a first striking mouse or something or double striking mouse, right? Because there's some decision you just had to make because you're like, I have to play this over this, or I just
Right.
don't even have it. Yeah, I don't have a chance. Now that's not the case anymore. It's opened up a bit. Now, I will say there was still Vivi Artinier, which did not get the hammer.
Yeah. They're giving him a little more time, I guess. It also feels bad when you just the card just came out. I know a lot of people again got into it because of Final Fantasy. They probably really because that is one of the more popular characters, I think. So they're trying not to, but yeah, he's on the watch list right now.
Yeah, and I guess I should correct my pronunciation because I believe I was told it's Vivi by the people that actually are fans of the character. So I want to upset too many people. I have heard the proper pronunciation. I will work on getting it right. But I think the issue with that card is losing both the Corey Stillcutter and losing This Town Ain't Big Enough does slow that deck down enough that while you can still do pretty crazy things with the card, don't get me wrong, the card's still nutso. If it survives for like 2 turns, good luck. I mean, I don't know if you're going to be able to win after that, but you can deal with it. There are answers. It takes more setup than it did before, which I think is good. Because the other thing too is I think when there was like Corey Stillcutter and everything else, you kind of had to worry about the cutter and preventing damage and doing all the stuff and maybe picking off some creatures. Then when VV showed up, I was like, well, now I'm out of stuff and now they can just do
Yep.
whatever they want with it, right? So that's not necessarily the case anymore. So yeah, we'll see how it ends up. But right now, everybody seems happy. So we'll see. I don't know what you've been hearing, but everybody
Yeah,
was
it
almost
seemed like
cheering.
yeah, it seemed like this is a thing that need to happen. Do you feel like Mono Red is dead again? Is that is that gonna just murder it completely?
I think that's a good question because mono red is still viable. It's just not crazy like it was. And I think we've always had some version of mono red, hell,
Yeah,
probably since 1997. It
right.
feels like back when we were playing Iron Claw orcs and weird crap in the deck. It's always existed. It goes from that to being like Jackal Pups
Yeah.
to Mog Fanatics to whatever. Like, there's always
Because when it
something.
goes, it's just the most non-interactive thing in the world that it's just not fun.
Yeah, but it still has a lot of tools. Like we were talking about, you can still play the Emberheart Challenger, you can still play Manifold Mouse. You still have the 3/3 that has haste, that if it gets dealt damage, that guy's still around. So you have a few real tools still available. Like the burn spells are still around, your lightning strikes, burst lightning. So the deck is still playable. It's just not as explosive as it was before. You're can you still win on turn 4? Like, there's some weird scenarios where you might, but realistically, it's going to be a 5, 6, 7 type thing now. Which, if so, that's fine.
And
I think
technically, I
everybody's kind of
guess
okay with that.
probably any well-tuned deck can get the turn four win if it draws every single card it needs to, and you don't get the answers. And sometimes that happens.
Oh yeah, this week alone, I put up a mono green deck that was doing well. I put up a lizard deck that was also doing well. But again, usually you're going to be 5, 6 plus when you're winning. But every once in a while, you just get the right draw. Your opponent doesn't have the right removal spell or something, and you're like, okay, well, maybe it was 4 turns, or you get them close enough on turn 4 that they might as well concede because they're not going to win. You're just going to kill them on the next attack step. And that can happen with any aggro deck, like you're saying,
Yeah.
that's well tuned. So I
I
agree with
haven't
that.
researched the numbers. I feel like if the main whatever I term to be the LeBron James of my deck, I feel like if it gets through the first 2 removal attempts, I feel like I've won. Usually,
Yeah,
that
that's
usually seems
usually a
to be
thing.
like how that works.
I think that's a fair assessment, right? If the first couple of removal spells don't really slow you down or don't really hinder your progress in some way, you're probably all right. If they do, okay, bug yourself in. We're playing a long game, you know, and that's kind of how it should be, right? Do you get a couple of answers? And if you do, great. We're playing a good long game, interactive game of Magic. But yeah,
I
man,
guess
that was
anybody they can let us know whatever. I know. I guess because sports right, I refer to my people as basketball player. Like, okay, this card's LeBron. This card's this card's J.R. Smith, if you
yeah,
will. Or
yeah. But sometimes you need a LeBron and a Kyrie, though. You
right.
know, you need your number 2, really. Or I
And
guess
then
I should
when I
say like AD or Luca these days for more modern
when I
league
draw them, I'll be
people.
like, okay, this is LeBron in here, but I think I got enough for the role players, and I think I can get through the first couple of turns with this.
Exactly. Exactly. All right, let's go ahead and hop into the soapbox. Coming off of the bannings, I do have a little bit of a gripe here. And I have to say, my gripe is not even with Wizards. It's not even with the bannings. It's with people who seemingly just want to be mad 24/7. And don't get me wrong, like there's a lot going on in the world. I
Hmm.
get it. Like there is a lot to be upset about. There's a lot to be stressed about. Hell, I ain't even gonna lie to people. I was traveling a lot the last month, and literally I had people telling me because normally it's like, hey, let me know when you land. They were saying, let me know when you get through security. Because like
Right.
that's the situation we're in, right? So I get it. I was like, I had that thought that, man, I don't know, maybe I end up in El Salvador. Shoot.
Oh God! One of our murder mystery people one time, it was an older lady, and she had forgotten her ID. We're like, oh God, we're trying to fly to North Dakota, and we just ended up letting her be her, and then she just wore them down. Basically,
Like, what do I got to do to prove I'm who I am? I got all this.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I get it, right? People being upset, totally understand. There are a lot of stressors right now. People are losing jobs for different reasons. Totally get it. But when you're showing up to things where, one, it's all about being positive or people sharing the positives of a thing, and you're just stepping in just to be negative or just pick something apart for no reason, when it's not harming anybody, is already kind of weird, right? Because I don't know if it's about you trying to focus it on yourself or your opinion has to be heard over everybody else's. Like, I don't know. That's just a weird thing. But the other is, I'm not going to call anybody out. Like, they know who they are because I've already addressed them. But I think it was Friday. I had put out a video predicting. I basically ranked the odds of each card being banned, right? And there were a couple of people who came in there and said, "Well, they're just not going to ban anything because there's no reason and blah blah and Wizards this and they're not brave enough to do whatever, different reasons. They just thought they weren't going to ban anything." And then the bannings happen, everybody's excited, and now they're like, "Well, they should have banned this, this, and this, or they should have banned all these other." I'm like, okay, so you went from they're not going to ban anything to be contrarian, and now that everybody's happy they banned cards, you're like, "Well, yeah, but we should have banned all this," and it's like, well, which is it, man? Right? Like, what are you just and I've seen a couple of people before when something's good, they just want to hop in and be negative. And I'm not even talking about the people that come along that just want to be mad at Wizards. But when I see people going around just trying to be negatively contrarian, I do genuinely question, like, what are you doing? Like, what's happening at home? What's in your
Who hurt
life?
you?
Yeah, for real. Like, who hurt you, right? Like, what is putting you in this position that you can't enjoy nice. Hell, I've seen people, like, I was watching a video just the other day with these border collies who one of them had learned how to use the little buttons so you can talk to your dogs or whatever
Oh
to
wow.
talk to the other dogs. And I was like, oh, this is a cool little video. And then they were just a long negative paragraph about the dogs being unsupervised and blah blah blah. And I'm like, dude, it's 3 dogs left at home. They're
Right.
inside. Like, what the hell, man? Like, people are just having fun with a cute video. Like, why? Why are you like this? You know? But seriously, I feel bad for those people. Because, like, when are you ever happy? Like, you saying the happiest, most fun thing with 3
Right.
dogs just goofing around, and you somehow are like, these owners are the worst. Like, bruh, what? They're safe inside. They're 3 dogs. Like, what do you think's happening here? It's the weirdest thing when I see that behavior. And to come after us creators because we just don't share an opinion or we like a thing that happened, like, we're playing games, man, at the end of the day. Like, find a way to enjoy your stuff. Why have a hobby? Hell, I've seen people, content creators, that they're just negative about their favorite game every time they make a video. And at some point, unless you're just negativity farming, which some of them are, why keep playing? Right? If you're just mad all the time, what's the point? Because I've literally quit doing other. I've told you before. I got annoyed with the community in League of Legends, and I just walked away. I'm like, I don't need this
Understandable.
anymore. Yeah,
Absolutely. And I'm sure you are not the first person. You will not be the last person on that one.
yeah. I found an alternative. I play Teamfight Tactics, but I just walked away because it was making. I don't even say it was making me unhappy. It was just more annoying. So I'm just like, cool. Don't need this with my downtime. I'll find something else to do that I will be happy with. But yeah, I think people just got to do that, man. I've mentioned this before, but like just seeing it pop up again recently, like, y'all not even touch grass. Go for a full walk. Like, just walk it off, man. Get you a pet, like something. Like, give you something to focus on. At least an animal will love you unconditionally. You can have that in your life. I don't know, but you need something. All right. All that being said, let's go ahead and move on to what did we learn this week? Because, man, we have a couple of very random things, and yours is kind of surprising.
Yeah, I was updating our mobile news section over at App Trigger, and I read something from Scopely. Like, I said, this number can't be right. Like, double check. No, it actually Monopoly Go, one of the really most casual, play with your friends and have fun games out there, has had to ban almost 700,000 people this year alone for cheating, glitching, and you talk about who hurt you. Who cheats at Monopoly? Apparently, almost a million people cheat at Monopoly Go. What you winning? Some stickers? I just don't understand. you shouldn't cheat at any games, but Call of Duty, Madden, I get it. There are huge cash tournament prizes. There's content creator clout. I get it. Really, what you getting from Monopoly Go is so good you got to download the software. You use glitches. That's mind blowing.
Dude, I'm with you. I went and looked because I'm like, okay, what are we even getting at all out of this? There's some random trophies.
Yeah.
There's a couple of stickers.
You unlock different dice and little
Yeah,
figures and things.
there's pretty much nothing. Like you're just literally just having fun with it all. I mean, there's like tournaments and stuff you
Yeah.
can try to win, I guess, to get more recognition stickers or
Yeah.
something.
But obviously not designed to be super competitive and sweaty. That's not what this game is supposed to be.
Yeah, and it sort of comes back to a thing I've been talking to people about a lot recently is how gamers put way too much value, and maybe it's just a societal thing because we put way too much value into being right or being the best at something we're part of. Like we almost can't enjoy something casually because we're not excelling at it. Like not everything has to be that. Like I'm with you. I can't even imagine taking something with no stakes and being like, you know what? I'm gonna get me this AI bot. I'm gonna get
Right?
this third party thing. I'm gonna get this web. I'm gonna get me two
I'm gonna get
phones.
aimbot for my Monopoly dice. Okay.
Yeah, like it's such a weird thing, right? That
Talk about touch grass. Absolutely. Just possibly get
even
a therapist. If you got a cheated Monopoly Go,
what's even wilder though is somebody is probably selling probably for $5, $10, whatever,
yeah.
access to this third party software that manipulates Monopoly Go. So now I almost can't fault them
Yeah,
because
somebody's
you
gonna
just
pay you
have,
for it.
yeah, the wherewithal, like that people are going to pay for it. Now, I don't think you should do it and be manipulating somebody's product.
Yeah.
But if you can, hell, at this point, 700,000 people have used it. Like, if it was just $5 to access it, they made well over a couple $1,000,000. So if that's the thing,
Humanity,
hell,
man.
I wouldn't even know what site to go. I'm just thinking about this right now. I don't even
Right.
think I know where to go look up Monopoly Go
There's somebody
software.
out there on the dark web looking up Monopoly Go cheat software. You on a
That's.
watch list because your dice weren't rolling far
I
enough
wonder if you
fast
just
enough
hold
for
on.
you.
I'm gonna see if I can just Google that Monopoly Go cheat software and see what comes up because I, for real, have no idea. There's a video about a Monopoly Go hack, but no site actually comes up. Yeah, there's some like hacks and random stuff on like Android, iOS, whatever. So
And they
yeah, I don't
did
even know
say
where
in
I'd
the
go find
release,
it,
there's a bunch of
honestly.
people where, hey, you were doing something that is, not necessarily, it wasn't a software, but you obviously, I think there was some kind of glitch in one of the wheels where you knew, and I mentioned this in the story, like you know when you're cheating, you know when you are abusing this. If you
Oh
got to
yeah.
ask yourself, is this fair? It's not fair. And they even said, hey, look, we saw your account, we saw some stuff that was abnormal. You're not suspended right now, but we see you. We cut it
Oh,
out.
dude, credit to them because apparently there was no suspensions. They just give a warning of we see your ridiculous behavior, cut it out. And if you don't, they just come back the next time and you can't log in. Like that's it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know what? Respect. Because more games need to be doing that. Right? Like you got your warning, you kept being an idiot, that's on you.
You imagine
I don't
having to
feel
tell
bad
your
about it.
friends you were cheating at Monopoly Go, like, "Hey, bro, you in? I've been sending you messages or whatever. I'm banned."
Yeah, exactly. Like, dude, you're gonna play the tournament later on Monopoly Go? Like, I can't. Yeah,
You got to
crazy
make
story
stuff
though,
up like,
man.
"Oh, I'm busy. I'm real
Yeah,
busy. I ain't had
exactly.
time to play." You can't.
That's a
That's some
wild one.
Seinfeld stuff. You can't tell another human being you got kicked off Monopoly Go for glitching. This is just
Yeah. Well, all right. Hey, I guess still in the realm of multiplayer stuff. One of the craziest things, because I've been trying to find like weird gamer stories and whatever and weird facts. This one genuinely surprised me because anybody who's played GoldenEye or 007, one of the best games on that console, one of the highest rated games on that console, and most of it is because of the multiplayer mode. Well, it turns out the multiplayer mode almost didn't exist. That's what's insane because it was, I guess, originally designed to just be a first person shooter. And somewhere in development, parts of the development team were saying, like, hey, we should have a multiplayer mode. Like, we think we can make it work, whatever. And they were a couple of months out from release. But they realized, well, for us to do this, we technically have to get it approved. And, bureaucracy, you got to go through all the steps, make sure everything's approved and,
License
paid for, whatever. Yeah.
Whoever James Bond
And
stakeholder
they took
is
it
has
upon
to agree
themselves.
that, hey,
Exactly. So they decided we're going to ask for forgiveness instead of permission. And they just went to town working on it, hammered it out over the course of like a month, got it done from what sounds like a couple of weeks before the game was set to ship to production. And it worked. And that ended
it
up being
worked
what the game was known
perfectly.
for. And what's funny is the bosses apparently didn't even know it was going to have a multiplayer mode until like right when they were ready to send stuff. They were like, hey, they checked all the boxes. And they're like, yeah, by the way, we tossed this in there. They're like, does it work? Yeah, we tested it. It works. They're like, all right, it's all good. Ship it. Because it's too late to take it out. You just go,
I can't even admit, I don't even know if I'd have played that game without the multiplayer. I probably would
that's
have.
what's kind of
I love
crazy.
James Bond movies, but it wouldn't have lasted without the multiplayer.
Oh yeah, the multiplayer mode is definitely what the game was known for. So it's really surprising, but it also goes to show you how much we think we know about some things, and we just never know the inside story. That this
Yeah.
game is a classic because of that very mode that almost didn't even exist,
And
which is
by
just
far the best
crazy
James
how stuff
Bond
works
game
out.
ever. I'd
Oh
argue
yeah,
probably
I don't
the
even.
only good James Bond game ever that I think about. I can't think of it. There was actually one on PlayStation, and it was just a single player. It was called Everything or Nothing, and it really did feel like you were playing a James Bond movie. But yeah, other than those, and really, I don't think hardly anybody played it because I think now when you say James Bond, people automatically compare it to Goldeneye, and then you're just screwed because you can't beat that comparison.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it's pretty much GoldenEye, and then a giant gap, and you just pick what your next favorite is. For the most part, they're all kind of in a bunch. But yeah, it's a fun fact. So I don't know how many people are GoldenEye fans, but just know you almost didn't have your favorite mode in the game, which is kind of wild.
And I
But let's get
saw
into
from a
some
Summer Game
topics for
Fest
the
they're
week.
doing
Oh
another
yeah.
one.
Oh
It's
what?
called James Bond. It's kind of like
For
James
real?
Bond Begins, basically. I want to say it's
Oh well,
called
that's
James
cool.
Bond First Light, I think.
Huh? Did not know that. That's kind of cool because there hadn't been one like you're saying, a decent one in a while. So hopefully that checks some boxes for people. But yeah, let's cover a few topics because we have a few things. A couple are kind of bad news. One's actually not too bad. I do think we need to touch on Edge of Eternities for Magic because we're starting to get news for that. We'll probably get previews starting here in about, I don't know, 10, 12 days. And it launches August 1st. So
This is the
very
bam,
soon
bam,
around the
bam
corner.
part of the schedule right here.
And yeah, and we kind of all been knowing this was coming once you get toward the back end. Granted, it does set up to where you'll be able to have this and Spider-Man available at MagicCon Atlanta. It does fall in that spot too of I think this was done purposely. And again, this is me speculating here, but there's a chance that a space opera Magic set wouldn't hit well.
Yeah.
So you're kind of sandwiched between the two Universes Beyond releases. So it's like, well, if this doesn't hit, there's still going to be a money train on either side. So we ain't really got to worry about it that much. Right.
Yeah.
But if it does hit, then you just like skyrocket the last quarter of the year because you're going to basically have 3 sets that are selling. 4 technically, because we ain't even done selling Final Fantasy yet. So yeah, I get it. I'd rather it not be sandwiched in there,
Yeah.
but I kind of get it. And they added a new rule for Commander with this set. So when this
I
set
saw
launches,
that.
you'll be able to have legendary vehicles as commanders. Yeah. I don't know. How do you feel about that?
That's weird, but then so is Magic Space Opera. All of this seems just a little game breaking. I mean, I guess. I mean, I understand how, they're obviously in warfare. There are ships, there are tanks that become legendary and so on. Or if you go back to, like medieval times, there were horses that became legendary in battle.
True.
So I see what they're trying to
One of the
do.
things
It's
I
like
was
so much.
thinking about, I was thinking about like, how many sentient ships do we have in sci-fi or vehicles as a whole, right?
Ooh,
Because technically, Kit
like
and Knight Rider
Kid,
is a
Kid was the
sentient
first one that came to
car,
mind
right?
because that era. Obviously, all the Transformers are
Yeah.
machines with vehicular forms. Obviously,
I
let's
mean,
see.
we could have had, if we gave the stats to it, the TARDIS could have been a
Yeah,
thing, so I kind of get it. Like
and the
there's some
TARDIS
stuff
did
there
turn
where it
into a
makes
woman
sense.
in one episode, so we could absolutely do that one if they go to Doctor Who
That is
again.
true. So, I mean, because people are like, this is a weird rule. But I'm like, I don't know. The more you do more universes beyond stuff, there are some actual living vehicles and ships that kind of
Yeah.
make sense. I mean, a lot of spacecrafts, you can talk to them or whatever. Like, okay, like, does the Enterprise count? Like, you know what I mean?
I
Like,
don't think the Enterprise is sentient.
it takes voice commands, but it's
It's
not
true.
sentient, you know? So, yeah, so I don't know. There's
And
some
I guess
weird
that
stuff like
these
that
ships
to
probably aren't
have
either. I
to.
don't know. We'll find out more about the ships at the Edge of Eternities here as we get closer to it.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. It still would have to be legendary and whatever to meet the other rules, but really kind of a cool idea. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think the bigger issue here will just be, if it is popular, how much of a window does it really have to sell when, 6 weeks later you're going to have the new Spider-Man set launching.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be the real problem for the set overall.
And assuming we get to, since we're doing Marvel sets, assuming we get at least a few X-Men at some point, the Danger Room became sentient during one story arc, so that could be a commander.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff you could do in that space. So yeah, we had mentioned some layoffs. Microsoft is cutting staff again across the board. It's going to be, sounds like 10% or 4% of Microsoft staff is going to be the number, split across multiple companies under Microsoft, obviously. But one of those, surprisingly, is King. King's going to get hit for 10% of their staffing. And for those who don't know, we've talked about it before, but King is the company that makes Candy Crush. The one we said, that Candy Crush that has made literally billions of dollars in its run and
Yeah.
still makes a bunch of money per year, several million. And this is the tough part when you're owned by a corporate conglomerate like this, is that when layoffs happen, everybody's got to share the pain usually. Rarely does a company, even if you're doing well, rarely do you get to escape completely free of that. Which like we talked about it before. It happened with Wizards, right? Even during the layoffs with Hasbro during the pandemic, where Wizards was crushing it
Yeah.
and Hasbro fell off. And it's like, well, everybody's got to share the pain a little bit. And they released a few extra people. It's kind of happening to King here. And that sort of sucks, man, because they're a decent sized company, but they're going to lose basically, like, from the numbers I found, like around 600 employees, which is that's a huge number.
Yeah. And sadly, one of the first things a big corporation does is figure out what is the absolute smallest number of people you can work with and still get this game out. And there are people who that's their whole job to figure out how many folks they can cut. Also, when you're part of a conglomerate, they can go, okay, when is the best time? when will this, as a corporation, cause us the least pain? In the case of the Microsoft, Activision, Blizzard industrial complex, Call of Duty is going to be dropping here real soon. So this is the
Yeah.
quarter where they can probably sustain some losses elsewhere.
And sadly, a lot of it is making end of year numbers look better than last year's end of year numbers. So it's like, well, we cut some payroll for the last quarter of the year. This makes our three and quarter four look better. So, it's just number manipulation for stock bonuses and stuff,
Right.
which is sad. But it is connected to the other thing I wanted to mention. And I found an article that had a nice chart showing spending among young Americans. And while they're cutting back on everything for a lot of reasons, because everything's getting more expensive and jobs and whatever, we could go on forever on that. But their video games was the largest category they had cut back on, and at almost 25% less year over year, which is wild. I mean, that's a huge number.
Well,
And
like we talked about on here, there are a lot of people where they play really primarily only the one game. People play Fortnite, and that's all. I know so many people where their game is Fortnite or it's Madden, Call of Duty. That's primarily all they play. So you just spend your $70 to $100 on whichever version you get, and you don't need to buy anything else until, in the case of Madden, next August. Call of Duty next October/November.
yeah, and I think some of that too is societally driven, right? Where if you're making less money and you're having to work two jobs or whatever, it's not like you're gonna have that much time. Even if it's two part-time jobs,
Also
maybe you're putting
true.
30 hours in on two different jobs. When would you game and play two, three different titles regularly? You
Yeah.
just don't. And we've said before, if you're getting into a game, one of the problems we have now, especially for brand new titles that don't have, and we're talking about fresh titles with no licensing backing them or whatever, you have to make a decision to spend your money knowing there's a real risk that one, that game may not even have active servers in 2 months, like we've seen
Right.
recently, or the community just falls off and there's nobody really to play with, no mass amount of people to play with within 4 or 5 months. Like we've seen
So
that time and time again.
yeah, one of your pet peeves, the new soccer game that just dropped, Rematch, has essentially no single player mode whatsoever. It is all online. So yeah, for some reason that
Yeah.
game crashes, you spent $30 for nothing 6 months from now.
Yeah. That's the other problem, right? When so many of them are driven by online play, by live service stuff, if those games go away, you literally can't play your game, right? Unless they're kind enough, like some games have been, to just leave a server up and running so people can just gather that are hardcore fans. Hell,
Yeah.
RuneScape still has like 1,000 people a week or whatever that log
Right?
into it. So, I mean, I guess, but nobody wants to buy a game for that, right? You want the rich experience of multiple people you're playing with, competing with, whatever. And you're going to get that from the legacy titles every year, whether we like it or not, right? Your Call of
Yeah.
Duties, Madden, whatever. Those are always going to be a thing. If you're going to go pick up a game as a new gamer, if you're playing MMOs, it's going to be World of Warcraft or probably Final Fantasy 14 right now, right?
Yep.
Those are the two big ones. Same thing if you're playing, that you want to play Fortnite, that's the top of the hill that's got millions of people. I guess PUBG is still out there, whatever, but
Yeah, it
everything's a
exists.
distant second
It's
right
still
now
out.
to Fortnite. Yeah.
Yeah, they said for battle
And I
royals,
think
the
that's where we're
number of
at.
people that the number of people for battle royals I think has gone down considerably. But the ones that are playing battle royals, they're playing Fortnite.
Yeah. And I think that's hard for people to reconcile. And I think honestly, some of this is the industry doing it to itself. When we've seen, hell, what was it? Was it Concord or whatever that had come out and it was dead in 3 weeks, basically? Didn't
Yeah.
even survive the month. Like week
Which
three,
for
we're
a
already
Sony
having
title to
announcements of like, yeah, they're saying
when they
we're going to
spent
shut this
hundreds of
down
millions of dollars
in a
on that,
month,
and
right? Like you already know that. That's crazy. So yeah, it makes it tough. I don't blame people for not spending. Truthfully, like it's when you have to decide where to spend your entertainment dollars. You don't want to put it, especially with the price of games. We've talked recently, like
Right.
$70 and $80 is likely to be the norm soon. So now you're better off getting you an Xbox, a PlayStation, hell, logging on to Netflix, whatever, and just playing the technically free games that are available, but by budget, it's
Yeah.
largely
Game
free.
Pass, PlayStation Plus. You pay them that set fee a month, kind of like Netflix, and then you get access to literally 200 games or more.
Yeah, really. It's I get it. And I don't think that trend's going to change in the next 12 months, probably not for the next 24 months. Until you can free up people's time or money on some level, the market's going to have to shift to more lower cost games, more, indie title type stuff, whatever that, like we're saying, like the Balatros of the world that only cost you $9 or whatever, right? You're going to need more of those to get people to shift to trying new stuff. I think in some cases, especially looking on the horizon, because we know all your legacies titles still got stuff. We're finally next year likely to see GTA 6 or whatever. So that we know is going to be the biggest seller of the year when it drops.
I was gonna say that's a
You
huge.
have
A lot
limited
of people
room to
are
get
concerned.
in where people's time's not going to be dominated.
Yeah, a lot of people are concerned about it not coming out this year because GTA is one of those games where the people play just that. But now that it's got the online mode, some people were planning to spend $70 to $80 this year, and I'm sure it's going to have $100 version. There's no way it doesn't because it's got online play. They're just not. They're not going to go play something else. They're just not going to spend that $100. They'll continue playing Grand Theft Auto 5 as they have for the past 12, 13 years now.
Well, yeah, especially when your investment in some of these games is already a sunk cost and you don't have to put anything else into it, right? Because you can still play GTA 5 for free, right? You can play Magic Arena for free. Technically, there's people who have all the decks they want playing for free. So there are other rich environments with tons of players where you don't even need a real investment outside of just the hardware to play it. And once you have that, it's like, well, I'll just wait till the next big thing comes out I want, and then I'll just buy that one thing. And I'm guilty. Like I spend a little bit on Arena because I'm making content, but outside of that, I don't spend much on my gaming. I might buy like the equivalent of what I call the battle pass on Teamfight Tactics a couple times a year, and that's the majority of my spending. Like I said, I bought Balatro around the beginning of the year, I think, but I haven't really bought a new game. Hell, we just finished playing Baldur's Gate 3 after a year now. I think we put 180 hours into the damn game, right? And I'm just now looking at a replacement title for that time that took up. And that was a year plus, almost a year and a half we played that thing. So
Yeah,
that's
if you got something you're going to put
absolutely
200
nuts.
hours into, you ain't looking for another game to play. You don't need another game to play. You're putting 200 hours into this bad boy.
Yeah, exactly. So I get why the spending isn't that. Like, we're all asking for more out of our gaming experiences and we want the thing that gives us that, but we're going to put a lot of time into it when we get it. But all right, all that being said, let's talk about something positive here in the dinner table. Or I assume it's positive. I don't know your answer yet. Maybe it's not a positive answer. But with it being summer season, means we got convention season. And, we're going to be doing some traveling, probably checking out a couple of events in each of our respective areas. So I wanted to ask you, what is your earliest big convention memory or convention that you went to? Because I don't know your answer. I
Yeah, and I
think I
don't
know
know if I
mine.
remember I don't remember the first one. I think the one where probably my best memory would probably be E3 the first time I went. And that really is taking on an even bigger meaning because we may never have an E3 again. It's looking like that'll never happen again. So be able to tell the kids, and well, I mean the kids. Well,
Ah,
I
that
guess
is a
I'll be
tough
able to tell
one.
my grandkids also that I was there in the time of E3. I was
Yeah.
there
And what's
when
funny is for
Titanfall was
me,
revealed.
yeah, exactly. Right. That's almost a legend in its own right. I remember going to regional conventions but I don't think at that point anything was larger than maybe a couple thousand people. Whether I was going to something in like Dallas or Austin or whatever. But then I went to the last Gen Con that was in Milwaukee. And I think it was '02 or I think '02. It was '02 or '03. And that was like, man, there's a lot of people here. Right. Even back then, I think Gen Con was still between 35 and 40,000. Like it was a lot, and I was like, dang, this is like you're talking about a number of people that is a multiple larger than my hometown I grew up in. Like
Mine too.
two to three X. Like so it's like, damn, this is a lot of people, And now I also realize it was confusing. So I'm like, why is this in Milwaukee? Because they did not take care of the convention. Like I remember we got done on the show floor because I was helping. I think at that one I was first when I helped Comic Images at for Raw Deal. And we got done with the exhibit stuff and we're like, okay, well, let's go grab food and we'll come back and run some tournaments. There was a mall about, I think it was like 2 blocks from the convention center. And the food court was mostly shut down except for 2 or 3 things. And it was like 6 p.m. I'm like, why? Like you have tens of thousands of people like 2 blocks down the road. Like how are y'all closed? Like you should be making all the money right now. And some places had higher price menus during convention weekend. It was just like such a bad experience. And then
Yeah.
comparatively,
That's
the
how you
next
lose
year
your
I got to go to Gen
convention.
Con. Oh yeah. But then in Indianapolis, even though I don't think the city of Indianapolis for the first 2 years really understood Gen Con and the amount of money and whatever, they still treated it better, right? People had like their special fun little Gen Con menus at their local restaurant. There was all like gamer terms and stuff, the best they could do because they didn't know, but
Right.
you could tell they were trying and they were happy the people and the money was there. By year 3, it was like big old signs like welcome to Indy and blah, blah,
Right.
and Gen Con this. And people had 24-hour schedules and like, they're all in now. But yeah, I think that was my takeaway. It's just going from the awe of just like, man, this is so many people and this is crazy and everything's in this building and it's awesome to, man, I know Milwaukee's a better city than this. How do you not take care of the convention? Because I've been to Milwaukee since, and I enjoy it. The food was solid. They got a little casino there that's solid. Like, there's some good things in Milwaukee, but
I know
they
gambling was
didn't.
legal in Wisconsin. Wisconsin.
Yeah, they don't take care. They didn't take care of Gen. I say don't. They Gen Con ain't going back at this point. But yeah, I really enjoyed it as my first experience, but I'm glad it wasn't the first convention I went to because I think I would have been overwhelmed. Even for a person who likes being around people and stuff, I think I would have been overwhelmed at 40 plus thousand people being like, God, and trying to, while I'm doing demos and trying to talk to people and exchange product, or that would have just been a whole lot. So I'm glad I had some other experience first before going to that. I
Yeah,
honestly,
I'm sure my first convention was Raw Deal related. I just don't remember which one it was.
mm, yeah, that's if I could leave on a note, I think it would be that because I talked to a lot of people in Vegas that it wasn't even just their first Magic Con, it was their first convention of any kind. And I thought, man, you picked one that has 20 plus thousand people to come to with all this stuff happening as your first convention. Like that's wow, awesome that you got to do it, but some of them you could tell were overwhelmed and they weren't prepared. And there's things you learn from going to conventions, like make sure I pack some extra water or some snacks or
Definitely.
whatever it is, right? Make sure I have my stuff that I can get signed at different booths, or you could tell they just weren't prepared for that. And I was like, yeah, if you're going to go to conventions, try to hit up one or two small ones first, just so you can understand what you need over the course of 2 or 3 days. Then go hit the big ones, and I think it'll be a better experience for you. But on that note, Brian, wants everybody where they can find you on the social media machines.
All right, you can read all my stuff over at App Trigger. App Trigger is also on Blue Sky. Got a whole bunch of stuff coming. College football drops in really a couple of days. It just like I said,
Yeah, it's
just
around the
bam, bam.
corner.
Everything comes out every day now.
Yeah, we're not going to be short for content. But yeah, if you want to find me anywhere, it's PowrDragn, PowrDragn. And boy, we're going to have a lot of stuff coming out for Edge of Eternities. So keep an eye on the YouTube channel, or just come see new standard decks you can play after the banning. But as always, wherever you're watching or listening, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Please remember to take care of yourselves and your family. Remember to be awesome. And most importantly, especially right now, be awesome to each other.